We've got a new signing to take a look at here today involving the New York Rangers bringing in a veteran forward on a PTO, a professional tryout option, and we're also not only going to take a look at that, and it is a pretty interesting player as well that was picked up on this PTO, so we'll take a look, of course, at kind of what that means for the Rangers possibly, but we're also going to take a look and kind of talk about which forwards currently on the New York Rangers are possibly kind of locked into a roster spot, kind of like 100% to be in the opening night lineup. Then we're going to take a look at some players that I think have a pretty good chance, but aren't completely kind of locks to be in the lineup, of course, if they're healthy. And then we're also going to take a look at the rest of the forwards that I think are just going to be having some good competition and are going to be competing for some of those remaining possible forward spots. So we've got lots to take a look at here in today's video involving the New York Rangers, so let's just get right into it here, and we'll take a look, first off, at the signing that was made, and that was, of course, the New York Rangers bringing in former Pittsburgh Penguins two-time Stanley Cup champion under the Rangers' current head coach, Mike Sullivan, and that, of course, is forward winger Connor Sheary. This is a undersized forward there, standing at about 5'8", but he was a pretty key player for, a couple playoff runs there for the Pittsburgh Penguins. He ended up, like I said, winning 2 Stanley Cups. He won back-to-back cups with the Penguins there from 2015-16 and the 2016-17 season there, so back-to-back cups. He ended up winning with the Pittsburgh Penguins. He was a pretty good player for them as well. The first playoff run there, winning that cup, he had 23 games played, 10 points, 4 goals, 6 assists. The next one there had 7 points, 22 games played, so yes, that was quite a few years ago now, but he still is someone who has that playoff experience there, has played for Mike Sullivan as well, which I'm sure is only going to possibly kind of help him out a little bit there to possibly get a kind of roster spot for this team. And I just think it's a solid kind of pickup there. I think maybe he could play a kind of bottom 6 role potentially for this team. As we're going to take a look at here in a second, there are quite a few players on the Rangers that are going to be competing for some of these few spots there that are kind of left in that bottom 6. So it's going to be some pretty crazy competition there. There's going to be lots of players kind of competing for those spots. But I think when you consider that, we're going to have guys like Othman, Perreault, and Berard, some young guys there, prospects kind of competing for those kind of third line spots more so, in that bottom 6 there. I think adding in another kind of veteran player there like Connor Sheary is just not a bad idea at all to add in some more competition. It's going to be tough, right? There are going to be lots and lots of wingers, especially competing for those kind of few spots that are really open. So I think adding another guy isn't the worst idea there. It's going to be some great competition for these young guys. I think at this point, we're really only going to see more than likely one of Perreault, Berard, and Othman in the actual kind of opening night lineup, just with all the kind of players that have been added in there, picking up a guy like Taylor Raddysh in free agency and signing him to a 2-year deal at around kind of $1.5 or so million cap hit, right? He's a guy who's probably going to be on that third line, I'd imagine. So I think there's going to be some good competition there. Adding in a guy like Sheary makes some sense there because he has played for Mike Sullivan. That's one of his guys, of course, who won, multiple cups with him there. He's got a lot of playoff experience, of course. He's been a pretty good player in the NHL for years. I mean, it's not like he's been anything incredible, but he's been a pretty solid kind of, for the most part, third line kind of player. Something around there is kind of where he's more so kind of fitted. But I just think worst case there is just some kind of solid depth for this team. Obviously, he might not even make the team officially and may just end up leaving after his PTO, but maybe he ends up signing with the team there and plays a bit. We'll have to wait and see, but either way, this is still someone who's only, 33 years old, turned 33 in June there. He is 5'8", but I just think is a solid forward to pick up and just add in some more competition there, and of course is a familiar face to someone like Mike Sullivan, the current head coach of the New York Rangers. So let's carry on now, though, and take a look at some of the kind of forward competition that we could end up seeing for the New York Rangers at this upcoming training camp in preseason as well, because there are going to be quite a few guys competing for, like I said, only a few real spots available because first off, we're going to take a look at the players that I think are pretty much like 100% kind of locked into the opening night lineup, and I have 7 players that are on the forward side of things. That's the thing here. This video is about the forwards here, not the defensemen, so don't count them into effect here. But for the forwards, I have 7 players that I think are pretty much guaranteed 100% logs to be in the opening night lineup, and those players are Artemi Panarin, Mika Zibanejad, JT Miller, Vincent Trocheck, Will Cooley, Alexis Lafreniere, and Sam Carrick. So we do have 6 forwards there who are pretty much all possibly going to be more than likely in that top 6. I think there's a pretty decent chance of that. Maybe one of them, like maybe a Lafreniere or a Zibanejad, possibly slide down to the third line, I guess. Maybe if they wanted to throw up a guy like Guy Perreault, maybe in that top 6, if he's really impressing. But other than that there, I think those 6 players are pretty much locks to be in that top 6. But we do have Sam Carrick, and some fans may wonder why I have a fourth line kind of player locked into the lineup like 100% alongside the true kind of star players and top 6 forwards of this team. And the reason why I say that is because he is a pretty much perfect fourth line center from what you can realistically ask out of a fourth line center, and for how much he's making, it being a $1 million cap hit. He signed a 3-year deal last summer, so he's got still 2 more years left with a $1 million cap hit. To me, he fits that role of a fourth line center perfectly. Good face-off guy, solid 2-way player, good defensively, can help kill penalties there, bring some toughness, physicality, can fight, he can hit, he can block shots. Just a tough, gritty player overall, and I just, like I said, think he fits that fourth line role perfectly. The odd time here and there, he'll contribute offensively, but for the most part, there's going to be a tough, gritty, defensive kind of center there. Good faceoff taker, good penalty killer, like I said. So all in all, he fits that fourth line center role kind of to a T. So I don't see why he wouldn't be in that spot come opening night for this Rangers team, as he is the perfect guy for that role. And next up here, let's take a look at the probably in tier, but players that I just don't think are 100% locks, but are pretty much guaranteed to be in the lineup there. But just there is the off chance that they might not be, even if they are healthy. But those forwards are Adam Edstrom, Matt Rempe, Juuso Parssinen, and Taylor Radish. First off, with Rempe and Edstrom, I have made a couple videos now talking about my kind of projected and kind of predicted lineups, and for both of them, I do have Rempe and Edstrom in there. I think they are more than likely going to be, but again, there is the kind of off chance, I guess, that if some other players kind of impress there, maybe we end up having like 2 guys of Perreault, Hoffman, and Berard in the lineup there, which maybe kind of slides down someone like maybe a Radish to the fourth line, where it kicks off maybe a Rempe to be the extra forward, right? So there is a possibility where we don't see Rempe and Edstrom in the opening night lineup, but like I said, I really do think they're more than likely going to be in there. And then for Parssinen and Radish, it's kind of the same thing there, where I think more than likely they're going to be in the opening night lineup. I think Rempe and Edstrom are going to be the fourth line wingers, and my guess as of right now is Parssinen is probably going to be the third line center, and Radish will be one of those third line wingers, possibly alongside one of Perreault, Berard, or Hoffman. We'll have to wait and see, but as of right now, that's kind of my guess. But assuming maybe a guy like Brodzinski kind of really impresses, then maybe we do see him take that third line center spot over Parssinen. But really and truly, as of right now, I am kind of guessing that we are going to see Juuso kind of get that spot there. I do think we're going to see Radish get that third line center spot, but like I said, there is the off chance there where even if they are healthy, all 4 of these guys, Edstrom, Rempe, Parssinen, and Radish, one of them, even if they're all healthy, may end up missing the opening lineup there. It is possible, but like I said, I really do think it is likely that all 4 of them will be in there. So that is basically 11 forwards that I think are almost all locks. There are 7 of them, being Panarin, Zibanejad, JT Miller, Trocheck, Cooley, Lafreniere, and Carrick. All 7 of those guys I think are 100% locks. The 4 players, kind of to make up that 11 there, is Edstrom, Rempe, Parssinen, and Radish there. So those 4 I think are pretty much guaranteed to be locked, but not 100%. So that is right there 11 of 12 forward spots available, meaning out of these guys left, there's pretty much only one realistic kind of spot available for these players to get. And that's where I have in this tier of kind of has a opportunity to potentially get a spot there, but obviously it's not terribly likely, as there's only kind of one spot left here for these players, and that is Hoffman, Berard, Perreault, Brodzinski, Connor Sheary now, of course, with him signing that PTO, and Justin Dowling as well. So starting off here with those 3 forwards, prospects there, Hoffman, Berard, and Perreault. Like I said, with those players, I think we're probably only going to see one of them in the opening night lineup to begin things for this upcoming season. I think we'll probably see 2 start in the AHL. Maybe I'm wrong, and if so, that probably does push someone like a Edstrom, Rempe, or Radish out of the lineup there. That's kind of my guess, but we'll have to wait and see. But at the end of the day there, I think we're just going to have some great competition for especially the bottom 6 forward spots. The top 6 is pretty much locked up there, like I said, unless one of Zibanejad or I guess maybe like a Lafreniere slip down to the third line there, and they have a guy like Perreault or Hoffman or Berard, I guess, maybe in that top 6. That's one of those ways where then maybe they have like another one of those prospects there on that third line as well, with also having one of them in the top 6. So That's really the only way I see two of the three there. I don't think they're going to go with two of those three prospects there in Othman, Berardi, Perreault on that third line together with especially like a use of Parson down the middle there. I think that's just way too young of a third line, more than likely for this Rangers team to go out there with, especially while having a veteran head coach like a Mike Sullivan. So I think they might go with a more kind of veteran route there. So that's kind of why I think we're only going to see one of those three prospects. And it may be disappointing to some fans to hear, but that's just kind of my guess as of right now. Anyways, that's going to do it for today's video. If you have enjoyed, definitely don't forget to click that like and subscribe button for daily New York Rangers content, as I do post every single day. And also, definitely don't forget to comment down below your thoughts on today's video on the New York Rangers, of course, signing Connor Sheary, the former Pittsburgh Penguin who played under Mike Sullivan, winning 2 Stanley Cups, him signing a professional tryout option with the Rangers. And also, what are your thoughts on the competition we're going to have here with all these forwards? Let me know in the comment section down below. I'll catch you next one, and let's go Rangers.